Hello, everyone. Have you ever wondered why, no matter how much you try, you keep falling back into the same routines, feeling stuck, and asking yourself why life isn't moving forward? The truth is, it's not because you're lazy. It's not because you're not capable. It's because of the habits you've built. Today's video is about how to break out of those cycles, how to understand the real reason you feel stuck, and how to build expert habits that can completely transform your life. Stay with me, because what you'll hear today is not theory. It's the reality that shapes your everyday choices. You live in a world of habits. Every morning, the same small battles happen inside many heads. The alarm goes off, the hand reaches for the snooze button, a promise is made, and a quiet resignation follows. You might think this is just laziness or poor willpower. The truth is deeper and cleaner. Habit is the invisible architecture of our lives. It builds homes for our choices and gives shape to our days. Where you stand right now, feeling stuck, small, or unsure, is not a failure of character. It is the result of systems you have lived in, and those systems can be changed. Habit is not a moral judgment. Habit is a pattern. Your mind learns quickly which actions produce predictable rewards and which do not. When you repeat something enough, it becomes automatic. That automatic part reduces mental effort. It frees your brain to focus on new problems, but it also locks in old answers. An expert habit is a pattern that leads steadily to skill, clarity, and growth. An unexamined habit is a pattern that leads to repetition, drift, and a life that feels oddly familiar, like a song stuck on the same few notes. To build expert habits, we need to see the real mechanics behind them. Habits begin with cues. A cue is anything that tells your brain it is time to act. A cue can be a time of day, a place, a feeling, a person, or an object. When the cue appears, a response follows. The response can be small, a single click, a single breath, a single sentence typed, or large, like leaving a job or moving to a new city. After the response comes the reward. Rewards teach us. Your brain celebrates what feels good and avoids what feels bad. Over time, this cue-response reward loop becomes a groove in your behavior. Feeling stuck often means those loops are working, but they are moving you toward comfort instead of growth. Comfort is not evil, it offers safety. Yet when comfort is all you have, it becomes a trap. You stop trading small, present comforts for distant, larger gains. The habit loops that produce comfort are shorter and faster. Checking your phone gives a quick rush of novelty and social connection. Practicing an instrument gives a small improvement only after hours of repetition. The brain prefers that quick loop because it is predictable and easy. To move from comfort into growth, you must accept a slower reward system and design your days so it is easier to choose the slower loop. There is another truth. Expertise is a function of repetition, not motivation. People who reach high skill levels are not always more talented. They are repeatedly exposed to the right loops. They stack cues and rewards in ways that keep them at the edge of their ability. This creates a gentle but relentless upward motion. Every small repetition moves the skill forward. Over time, those repetitions add up to something that looks like genius from the outside, but from the inside, it feels like steady, patient work. So why does it feel so hard to start? Starting requires a decision to rearrange cues and rewards. It is not enough to decide you will try harder. The world you live in already has cues. Some invite growth, many invite drift. To change, you must first change what calls you to act. Replace the cue that says open social media with a cue that says open a notebook. Make your environment speak the language of your future self. Many people misread the path to expert habits as a test of will. They set grand goals and declare transformations. On day 1, they are full of energy. By day 5, the energy is gone and the old loops return. This cycle repeats until hope is exhausted. Why? Because willpower is a limited resource and because the brain is not built to follow heroic declarations. It is built to respond to context. A better strategy is to design your context. When you make the cue obvious, the response easy, and the reward clear, your brain will help you. Small changes to your environment make big changes to what you actually do. Another reason people feel stuck is confusing identity with actions. You tell yourself, "I am not a morning person," and then your brain pays attention. Identity claims set the stage for habits because they influence how you interpret cues and rewards. If your identity is someone who gives up when work is hard, then your brain will look for the best way to protect that identity. But identity is not fixed. Identity is built by small acts. When you repeat a practice, you signal to yourself who you are. Over time, these signals become strong enough that your actions no longer fight your identity. They reinforce it. Building expert habits is not just about practice, but about the quality of practice. It is easy to do something for hours and still grow little. The human mind needs feedback to adjust. Deliberate practice means practicing with attention, focused correction, and a clear target. Without feedback, you can repeat mistakes for months. Experts often use others' eyes, technology, or measurable signals to get feedback. If you practice playing notes but never listen, you will become comfortable at noisy mistakes. If you write for hours and never edit, you will not learn to write sharply. Feedback is the mirror that lets you correct your path. Yet feedback alone is not enough. You also need to remove friction. Friction is anything that makes the desired action harder than the undesired action. In life, friction is everywhere. The time it takes to unpack a guitar, the steps to open a camera app, the cost of a gym membership. Expert habit builders remove friction for good habits and add friction for bad ones. They make the path to growth simple and the path to drift harder. This is not complicated design. It is ruthless honesty about what is easy and what is hard in your daily life. There is a common myth that talent explains why some people soar. Talent matters, but its power is small compared to the power of repeated action and good habit design. Many talented people fade because their habits are weak. Many less talented people rise because their habits are strong. Talent opens a door. Habit walks through the door every day and turns the house into a home. When you feel stuck, there is also a story your mind tells you about failure. The mind often uses a small mistake to justify stopping entirely. One missed day of practice becomes proof that you lack discipline. This thinking is cruel and inaccurate. The real pattern is forgiving. When a mistake happens, your mindset about mistakes matters. If you see mistakes as temporary and informative, you will return to the loop quickly. If you see mistakes as identity blueprints, you will avoid the loop and drift away. Learning thrives on structure. Many people wait for a perfect schedule or a perfect mood before starting. The problem is that life never offers perfect conditions. The expert habit is built by the decision to act in ordinary conditions. It is not dramatic. It is consistent. It shows up in rain and in sunlight. That is why routines matter. They remove the need for perfect conditions by converting action into ritual. Rituals are special because they repeat the same cue and response, making the brain expect what comes next and reducing the need for heroic effort. Time is a silent partner in growth. Small actions performed daily multiply. If you read one page each day, in a year you have read a novel. If you practice a skill for 20 minutes each day, in a year you will have thousands of minutes of focused practice. This compounding is the quiet math of expertise. It feels slow, and so many people stop before the math has had time to work. The trick is patience, grounded in small, measurable steps. Trust the math more than the mood. Another sticky part is the social environment. Humans are social animals. We copy the people around us. If your circle values immediate reward and constant distraction, your habits will drift that way. If your circle values depth and steady work, your habits will lean toward growth. Expert habit builders know this and shape their social world. They spend time with people who model the things they want. They also seek accountability in a kind way, gentle mirrors that show where they stray, and supportive hands that help them return. Motivation is fickle, but purpose is steadier. Motivation waxes and wanes with emotion and energy. Purpose is a reason that persists when mood changes. When you connect practice to a reason that matters to you, habit becomes more reliable. Purpose answers the question, why do this when it is hard? For some, purpose is curiosity. For others, it is a promise to someone else. For many, it is the story they want to live. Purpose is not a big speech. It is a small sentence you return to when you want to stop. We also underestimate the power of identity-based cues. When a cue connects directly to who you want to be, it becomes sticky. For instance, instead of saying, I want to study, say, I am someone who learns every day. The latter ties action to identity, which makes the brain more likely to choose behavior consistent with that story. Identity-based cues create a virtuous loop. Actions reinforce identity, and identity makes actions easier. The path to expert habits includes several invisible stages. First comes curiosity. Curiosity opens the door because it reduces the fear of failure. When you approach practice as exploration, mistakes become discoveries. Second comes small wins. Small wins fuel the brain's reward system and build momentum. Third comes mastery of basics. Experts often return to fundamentals because complexity, without a strong base, is fragile. Fourth comes expansion. Once the basics are stable, you can stretch into harder challenges with less friction. But you will face resistance. Resistance is a force that appears when you try to change. It looks like boredom, distraction, fatigue, or the sudden lure of a different activity. Resistance is not a moral enemy. It is the old brain protecting predictable returns. When resistance appears, the gentle tactic is to reduce friction and remind yourself of small wins. The brutal tactic is to push through without design. The gentle tactic lasts longer because it preserves energy and makes return easier. Another hidden truth is that the journey to expertise reshapes your taste. At first, practice can feel unpleasant because your body and mind are not used to the work. Over time, as skill grows, the pleasure of the work increases. This is called taste acquisition. What you enjoyed at the start may differ from what you enjoy after months of practice. Accepting taste change helps. You will move from craving novelty to craving depth. That shift often feels strange because it rearranges what gives you pleasure and pride. Sleep, rest, and recovery are not optional. The brain learns while you sleep. Memory consolidates during rest. When you skimp on rest, you slow the machine that makes habits permanent. Good experts treat rest as part of their system. They schedule sleep, breaks, and recovery as carefully as practice. This is not laziness, it is smart engineering. The world of tools and measurement helps habits grow. Simple metrics show progress. A notebook with streaks, a timer, or a teacher can tell you if you are moving. Measurement is not about punishment, it is about information. If you do not measure, you wander. Many people think measurement is only for data people. It is not. Everyone benefits from feedback that is clear and kind. Comparison is a sneaky thief. When you compare your beginning to someone else's middle or end, you feel small. Comparison hides the fact that expertise is long and cumulative. Instead of comparing, use models. Study how others structure their practice and borrow right ideas. Remember that public success often hides years of quiet repetition. Comparing without context steals energy. Modeling with context gives tools. Perfectionism also stalls habit. Perfectionism sets a high threshold for action. If the threshold is too high, you delay starting. Expert habit designers lower the bar. They make the first step ridiculously easy. It might be 1 sentence, 1 minute, or 1 repetition. This tiny beginning defeats perfectionism because it proves you can start. Once started, momentum often carries you farther than you expected. Another quiet lever is the language you use with yourself. Words like try can sound soft and temporary. Words like commit can sound hard and permanent. Choose language that aligns with action. But be realistic. Making a small, specific commitment is better than making broad promises. I will practice for 10 minutes at 7 o'clock every weekday beats I will practice more. Specific language makes cues clearer and makes the brain better at guessing what comes next. You will need patience like a patient gardener. Seeds do not become trees overnight. They demand water, light, and 1,000 small, unfelt changes. Expert habits are like tending a garden. Prepare the soil, plant small seeds, give consistent light, prune away the dead, and celebrate any green. If a plant dies, learn and plant again. The garden metaphor is not poetic fluff. It is a practical image that captures time, care, and iteration. At times, you will fast forward and see big changes. Those moments are not miracles. They are the visible result of invisible daily acts. The expert habit is a machine for making those moments happen more often. It does not depend on mood. It depends on the steady addition of small efforts that align with purpose and identity. When the path is unclear, simplicity helps. Pick one small, high-leverage habit and defend it. High-leverage habits produce more change than others. Which habit is high-leverage depends on your life. Maybe it is reading 1 page, jogging for 10 minutes, writing 1 paragraph, or making 1 phone call. The point is to pick one and protect it from distraction until it becomes part of you. Failure is part of the route, not the end. When you fail, analyze gently, remove friction, and rebuild. The mind that learns to fail and return becomes more resilient and more skilled. Expert habits are less about being perfect and more about being reliable. Reliability compounds in the same way small daily actions do. Slowly, invisibly, and then suddenly. There is a special kind of patience called long-curve patience. It is the ability to hold a small behavior steady because you believe in the long-term effect. Long-curve patience is rare because humans prefer immediate reward. Cultivating it means cultivating trust in the math of repetition. It means believing that small improvements will add up. It also means accepting that some days will feel like nothing changed. The secret is that something always changed. You may not be able to see it yet. Finally, expert habits are social. Share your process with someone who cares. Teaching what you learn makes it firmer. When you explain a concept to another person, you force clarity and refine the habit. Community multiplies retention because it introduces accountability, feedback, and shared example. You may read these words and still feel that invisible weight in your chest. That weight is not a condemnation, it is a signal. It tells you where your habits have settled and where your life has been shaped. Use it as a map, not as a jail cell. Build small cues that call you to action. Remove friction, welcome feedback, and tie each practice to the identity you want. Practice with attention, protect your rest, and measure your steps. Choose tiny, specific acts that you can repeat. Over time, you will notice the slow turning of your life toward the things you value. When a new habit feels foreign, remember that all habits feel foreign at first. Even the habits you take for granted today were once awkward and strange. Drinking water in the morning, tying your shoes, or brushing your teeth all began with a clumsy repeat. The strange becomes natural when you push it through the valley of early discomfort into the field of routine. There is no single magic technique. There is steady design, repeated action, and patient adjustment. That is the reality. The life that feels stuck can become the life that flows when you build expert habits around what matters. You do not need to be perfect. You only need to be persistent in small ways that add up. The architecture of your days will shape the architecture of your life. Choose the building blocks with care. There are simple tricks for hard moments. Use an if-then plan. If a cue pulls you away, then take one breath and do just 5 minutes of the habit. If you miss a day, then do a 1-minute version so the habit does not break. Habit stacking helps too. Attach a new tiny habit to something you already do every day. After you brush your teeth, write one sentence. After you sit down for breakfast, read one paragraph. Little links like these make new habits climb onto old ones. Celebrate small wins. A quiet smile, a tick on a calendar, or a brief note in your phone tells your brain the action mattered. Finally, be kind to yourself. Expert habits need time and care. Treat yourself like a learner, not a failure, and you will keep coming back. Small choices, repeated, change everything. Trust the process and protect the small daily acts that build your future and shape who you become.